Welcome to Carolina Crafting. I'm Jackie Jentz. I went on vacation this year and I went to Anchorage, Alaska, and I ran into this wonderful marketplace in downtown Anchorage. There's over 400 vendors here, some of the coolest people you ever met. Crafters from all over the area, they come into the Saturday market. It starts in mid-May and runs through September 7th. I've met some great people here. Let's go inside and talk to some of them. I stand in the corner of Moose Hollow and Salmon Run in the Anchorage Festival and Marketplace. The market's laid out in streets. The vendors are set up here every weekend. This is the 16th season of the Anchorage Market and Festival. It's located at 3rd and East Streets in downtown Anchorage. Now it has over 400 vendors, and there's everything you can imagine. I was just astounded. It was so cool. There's artists, crafters, food vendors. I had a halibut taco, go figure. It was good. The first true crafter I met while I was in Anchorage was Carol Green, Bad Girls of the North. And Carol's going to tell us today about what she's done to promote crafts in the Alaska area. Hi, Carol.
Hi. My business partner and I, Vicki Potter, we met about 11 years ago, and we were both local crafters participating in the craft fairs in the area. And we thought they were a little bit lacking, and so we decided to start producing our own craft fairs. So we do juried shows, and we do 3 of them now around the state. And we sell our logo T-shirts. That was just kind of a sideline. It was actually at the suggestion of a customer. They liked our building name, and they said, "Hey, you ought to put that on a T-shirt." So we did.
And here you are today.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And how large is the crafting and artist community in this area?
There's a lot of artists in Alaska. And a lot of them, they just kind of like hide in the woods. And you never, we have several times come across, just randomly met someone, got chatting with them, and find out that they create that they create something, amazing and unique and beautiful.
We're here with Carla. Carla's a watercolor artist located here in the Anchorage area?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, actually in Chugach.
Chugach. Okay, I don't know how to say that. I see it on sign.
It's to Kalutna, and it's about 35 miles north of here, just past Eagle River. So.
Okay, that makes more sense now. I've seen it everywhere, but didn't know what it was or where it was. Tell us what you do. I love your work. It just catches the Alaska spirit to me.
Well, for the last 12 years, I've been a full-time artist up here, and this is basically transparent watercolor. And what I did is I kind of decided when I was in school and I worked as a framer up here that I couldn't stand how matting closed in images that were watercolor. So I decided when I did I do originals, and then I do up here in the Made in Alaska program. I did do all the prints and everything separations. So when they're printed, I realized, well, what's to stop me, as long as I keep it archival, from continuing the image and making it one piece? One of the things I do is, this is a print, an offset lithograph of one of my originals. It's belugas from up here in Turnagain Arm. Oh, wow. And then basically what I do is I take that print and I cut the mats, and then this is all original watercolor. You can see the difference there.
Let's see.
And
adds so much more dimension.
I continue the image. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's much more dimensional. All the wildlife comes from hiking up here and everything.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, I actually, there's some bears, like there's a bear up there. Oh. He was moved from our property. And then the marine images are all from my diving. I was a diver for about 12 years in Maui. And I basically paid my rent with fish. Wow. So, yeah. And then the mermaids and dragonflies come from my own stories and everything. And I pretty much like to have each piece unique, so everyone gets a little piece of me or Alaska or Maui or whatever it is.
That's the best part, I think, to put yourself out there for everyone to share.
Yeah,
I like that part.
Talking to people and everything. I enjoy getting their input, and my best compliment I've ever had actually is when people who have never bought artwork ever and they're not really interested in artwork. And when they come back to me and say, I have to buy this piece.
Aw.
And it just makes me feel like, wow, well, I've affected them, and
Yeah.
it's opened doors for them, and whether they hang it on a bathroom wall or in their living room or whatever, it's a piece of artwork, and
It
it's
is.
kind of maybe enriched their life a little bit. And they always seem so startled, like, and almost angry at me, like, well, I just have to buy this, so I think that's kind of cute.
Next, we're visiting with Tanya. Tanya makes wonderful biscotti. Tell us all about your biscotti business.
We started our company about 3 years ago, and we started because we love biscotti. We couldn't find anything like it in Alaska, and we wanted to bring a taste of Italy here in Alaska. So we make about 7 different flavors, and they're all awesome, and we have samples out for people to try so they can see that they are soft and they are tasteful. We instead of putting a lot of sugar, we put nuts and fruits in it, and they have a wonderful flavor, and then we dip them in chocolate.
When I was at the market last week, I noticed Sheila's booth. I was really intrigued with the parkies. And we're here with Sheila today so she can explain exactly what they are and how she came to be making these. Hi, Sheila.
Hi, I'm glad. Welcome to Alaska.
Thank you.
I own a company called Laura Wright Parkies, and Laura Wright was my grandma. She started making parkies for sale in 1947 up in Fairbanks. And she'd made parkies before that, but not to sell for the public. She made them for her family and her friends. And I bought it 24 years ago and have been making summer and winter parkies ever since.
Is it a Native Alaskan type or style of parka or coat or dress? I've heard people say that sometimes they wear them in the summer as dresses and in the winter with other clothes as a winter outfit. Is that? Explain a little bit about that.
Okay. Like this one is a winter parkie. And it has fur on the hood and it has a fur fancy on the shoulders. And traditionally it had fur on the cuffs and on the bottom. But the fur wears off on the bottom and on the cuffs first, so instead I put the fur up here. It's got a lining in it, and I have different weights of linings for different warmths. I can make parkies down to 50, 60 degrees below zero. It's a summer parkie. And it's like a lightweight windbreaker. There's no lining in it. It's just a jacket that you would wear on a day that you need a little bit of wind resistance, a little bit of long sleeves. What makes it so unique is, first of all, that it has a hood. Second, that it has all the trim on the hood, the cuffs, the pockets, and the bottom, because that's what makes an Eskimo-style jacket, is all the beautiful trim. And you were asking about dresses.
Right. Well, like the cute little ones.
Mm-hmm. They're called cuss bucks. Think of it like a hockey term, cuss the puck. And the little dresses for the little girls or the adult ones. This is an adult one, and in the old days, the women made their parkies with the fur turned in next to their skin. and then the skin was on the outside. And once material was available, they made the calico covers to go over and to protect the skins. Then in the springtime, they would let the skins air out, and they would just wear the kuspak, the overdress. They wear them like a dress. They wear them like a long blouse over pants, and they wear them as an extra layer over the top of everything. So there are two different kinds of summer parkies, this kind and this kind.
Vicky's booth caught my eye. Vicky makes aprons and table runners and all kind of things that you sew. And as some of you know, that's my passion in life. So I had to stop by and talk to her. Vicky, tell me how you got started and what you've been doing.
Well, I got started about 13 years ago. I'm not a TV watcher, and I don't sleep much. So I figured, mad money. Women need mad money. I started sewing. Turned into a full-fledged business. So now I wholesale and I retail, and I still have my full-time day job. So I do a lot of sewing. It works well. The airlines wear my aprons on their flights. I have a lot of restaurants that wear my aprons. So I'm getting pretty well known as the apron lady.
That's really cool. I made aprons for Christmas and I really got into aprons. It's like, you get addicted. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I still enjoy sewing, which is good after 13 years. I still enjoy it, and which is good. You don't want to do something that you don't enjoy anymore, but I enjoy doing it. I made my patterns, and took me a while to get them to work right and critiquing by other people, but now I've got it down, and I do really well.
You like this market?
I do like the Saturday, Sunday market in Anchorage. It's 18 weeks, and sometimes the weather's not so good, but we do really well. The tourists are good by us, and I keep my prices down where tourists, don't think that we're gouging them, and the people that live here come and buy from me.
We're here with Desert Dog. I have to hear the story about this, and I have to talk about his great work. It's unusual pottery.
My work's based on geodes and rock formations. I hand make them, glaze them. It's stoneware pottery. They're food safe, glaze safe. As far as the name Desert Dog, that came from an old girlfriend down in Homer that was getting a divorce, and she came home from the attorney one day, and I said, I need to name my business. And she goes, all men are dogs, and you're from the desert. You ought to name it Desert Dog. And I did the old, whoa, what's got you going? And so we laughed, and that's how I got the name.
I love the name, though.
I grew up out by Death Valley. That's part of it. So
a lot of difference from Alaska. How'd you get up here?
I just got tired of California and all the issues.
Yes.
Too many issues in the lower 48. It's just, here in a half hour I can be anywhere fishing.
I was just walking past this shop and I noticed a spinning wheel, reminiscent of North Carolina and things back home. This is Kelsey, and Kelsey's going to tell us all about her business.
Hi. Well, I just got started in the past year. I've always loved wool and knitting. I've been knitting since I was about 4 or 5 years old, and just recently got into dyeing. And so I dye roving or various types of wool for spinning, and then I also spin it up and sell it. And I have some felted bags that are hand knit or recycled, sweaters and everything that I do. And I just really enjoy a lot of the colors that I can work with that you just can't get other places, and I've enjoyed a lot of the people that it's brought to, that I've got to meet, other crafters and everything. But
I like the fact that you can customize the colors.
Yeah, it's really great. People can either custom order from me, they can pick what colors they'd like, or I have repeatable colorways as well. And I also do just random colorways that I don't really repeat, just however I feel at the moment is what I get done. So
is the wool from Alaska?
I'm trying to add a line of local wool right now. There's just not really a big enough farm up here or anything that has local stuff that's readily available all the time. So I'm trying to add that this next year, but right now I really have to order most of my wool from various. It's all U.S. based companies that I order from, but other than that, yeah, there's just not really anywhere up here that.
I haven't noticed any alpaca or sheep or anything running around.
Yeah, and usually when there are, they're like local. And I've gotten some stuff, but it's all been for myself.
Understandably. Like Last week when I was at the market, I ran into Laurel Bill, and she had the most fascinating story about the history of Alaska. Laurel, please tell us the story.
Okay, fine. My aunt, who's on the cover of my books, was an Alaska historian. And when she died in 1993, I inherited her whole collection of Alaska history stories that she'd written for magazines and newspapers. I went back to college and just got my degree in journalism 4 years ago so I could put the collection together. The first volume came out in May 2006, and it begins with the early days of the Alaska natives arriving across the Bering Sea land bridge. And then also it continues on to the Klondike Gold Rush. The stories are short stories. They're told in a narrative style, so it's a very fun, easy read, not a boring history. And then I went through archives. I went through thousands of photos and found almost 300 historical photos to help tell the stories. The second book came out last year, picks up where the first book leaves off. It tells the stories of the Klondikers. When the Klondike played out of gold, they moved on to Nome when nuggets were discovered right on the beaches. They picked the nuggets up, and from there they moved on to Fairbanks, so it tells the stories of Fairbanks, Valdez, Cordova, and Seward and how they were born, as well as the early days of law and order coming into Alaska. It turns out our first lawman in the interior was a wanted murderer from the lower 48, and it wasn't discovered until he went back home. It also tells how the Iditarod Trail was blazed, as well as who climbed Denali first. The third book came out just a couple weeks ago. This is now June 7th, so it was the mid-May. And it tells the story of the Alaska Railroad, how it was built from Seward to Fairbanks. That birthed the town of Anchorage. Anchorage was nothing but forested area, and it was to be used as a construction camp and a storage spot. But as it grew, it now became, of course, Alaska's largest city. This also tells the story of the early aviators and their flying machines in the 1920s, which totally changed the landscape of Alaska. And also how in the 1930s Depression era, we had a group of farmers come north from the Midwest, and they settled the Matanuska Valley. This volume ends in 1935 with the fatal crash of Will Rogers and Wiley Post up near Barrow. The fourth volume I'm working on now will be available next May. And anyone interested in the volumes, they're $19.95, and they can get a hold of me at my website, www.auntphilstrunk.com, just like the name on the book. And I'd be happy to inscribe them, autograph them, and get them in the mail to folks.
I hope when you visit Anchorage that you'll go by the Saturday market. It's a wonderful place, great place to buy your souvenirs, and you support your local crafters.